Hello, my name is Colin King. I am the Director of Postgraduate Research Studies at the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. I am going to talk today about my own experiences of applying for research funding. Just to give some quick context at the outset, a lot of us have been in a situation where you go to a new conference, particularly at the start of your career. You walk into a crowded conference hall and you know nobody there. I remember that all too well, especially when I first moved to the UK. I went to a conference, the British Society of Criminology conference. There were quite a few money laundering and financial crime talks at that conference, so it was a very good fit with research. I recognized the names of the speakers, but I did not know any person there. So I thought that an ideal way to get to know some of the people working in these areas would be to organize my own conference. That basically was the start of my funding applications. But before saying a bit more about that, I should mention that I have had knockbacks with funding applications. ESRC Future Leader Scheme, I did not get past the first stage. The Marie Curie International Outgoing Fellowship. This was a shot in the dark. I had a good idea. I had lined up a visiting fellowship at Berkeley. I had previously visited Berkeley for a week to lay the groundwork. My concern with this application was not the proposal itself. It was more, am I a strong enough candidate for it? As it turned out, the reviewers thought that I was an ideal person to do the project. The candidate section was the highest rated section, but the lowest rated section was the host venue. For some reason, the reviewers did not think that Berkeley was a good place to be based for socio-legal research. That just shows the subjective approach of reviewers. But it also shows that I did not do enough to emphasize how strong Berkeley is in that field. The British Academy Small Grant Scheme, this was an application to do empirical work on proceeds of crime. Again, that was knocked back, as was the ESRC Transnational Organised Crime call. No joy there either. But I would advise not to give up. I remember when I did not get the ESRC funding, I spoke to a senior colleague saying that I should have just written an article instead, that months had been wasted for nothing. He told me not to be too down. His advice was, it takes a couple of tries before hopefully you get a result. And also that an unsuccessful application can be recycled for future applications. That leads to my next point. Do not throw away unsuccessful bids. I did use some of the applications for future bids and I did have success. One example, the ESRC Transnational Organised Crime bid was the basis for a later application that was successful, and it ended up being a far better project. So to look at some of my funding successes in order, 2010, I applied with a colleague to the Modern Law Review seminar series. We were awarded $7,500 to organise a symposium, and subsequently to that we developed an edited collection. In 2011, the Worldwide Universities Network Research Mobilities Programme awarded me $1,700 to visit the Sydney Institute of Criminology for 2.5 weeks. In 2013, the Manchester Strategic Investment Research Funds that allowed me time to visit the US for 3 weeks to provide the groundwork for future bids. And that was to the value of 3,900. In 2014, I applied to the AHRC network scheme again with a colleague where we were awarded 45,000. In 2016, the Modern Law Review Seminar Series again. This time it was an award of 5,000 jointly with colleagues in other universities to organise a conference. In 2017, I collaborated with colleagues in a different discipline in politics, and we were awarded 33,000 by the British Academy tackling the UK's International Challenges scheme. In 2017, I applied for the AHRC Leadership Fellowship Scheme, which was worth 158,000. And more recently, I applied to the Society of Legal Scholars Small Grants and Events Fund, 4,500. So you can see a variety of different schemes and different values there. I should say a bit about my approach to research funding here, because I have had people come to me and say that they want to apply for a new call in their research area. The call has come out from the EU or RC UK, and it's for £1 million. But they're just starting out their career. They might have recently finished their PhD and might have published 1, maybe 2 articles. Being realistic, you are not going to get a £1 million grant. The funders simply will not trust you to manage it properly without a track record. And that influenced my thinking from the outset. Why would or why should a funder trust me to successfully deliver a fellowship award? And it is a pretty substantial investment in you. So why would they trust me when I don't have a track record, either in research or in funding management? And if you look at the development of my funding awards in terms of the value, you're looking at a move from smaller values towards medium amounts and then applying for more substantial fellowships. And you can see a track record coming out of the smaller applications as well. So my first application to the Modern Law Review scheme, we successfully organised a conference and we published an edited collection. I also co-authored a short article with a practitioner that I met at that conference. At the trip to Sydney, I delivered a paper which was subsequently published as an article. So after a few years, I had published a few articles, some book chapters, and that showed that I could publish and deliver what I promised in earlier applications. So when I eventually applied for medium-sized funding, so the application to the AHRC network scheme, I did have a bit of a track record at that stage. So again, you can see the trajectory, small grants towards a medium-sized grant alongside a research record. And you can see it with different career stages as well. So looking at funding that I received when I was doing my PhD, when I was a lecturer, when I was a senior lecturer, and now that I am a reader. So what advice would I give in relation to funding applications? First of all, working well with others is key. Again, to give one example from the AHRC network scheme, this application was a collaboration building upon previous work. I was a junior colleague and a senior colleague was working alongside me. This gave reassurance to the funders that the project would be delivered successfully, and that was specifically mentioned in the reviewer reports. The second bit of advice I would give is to allocate sufficient time for drafting and redrafting of your application. Shortly before the network grant finished, I started work on the fellowship application. And that did take a long time. Do not underestimate the time needed for this. Even when you think you are done, you show your draft application, you show it to colleagues or friends for their peer review, and that takes time. When you get it back, it takes a lot more time to revise. The small details matter. Everything needs to be really strong to stand a chance. I was really lucky here that so many people read my drafts, so colleagues in my department, as well as 4 people in other institutions. I have to emphasize how amazing the research support office was. Colleagues there were probably the harshest critics, but they're also very constructive, and the application improved so much as a result. So thanks to Bente and Paul for all their help with my applications and their patience for putting up with me. What benefits did I get, so specifically from the fellowship? First of all, time. I had time to take a step back and read and really think about my research. It also gave me time to finish off work, to get things off the desk. Second, again with time, it gave me time to do interviews and also money to have those interviews transcribed. And 18 months on, I can now see some of the outputs of that time in print, including a co-authored book, a co-edited collection, as well as a number of articles and book chapters. I think it is also important to mention some challenges. And first, I would stress how important it is to really hit the ground running. The time does go pretty quickly, and you do not want to waste it. And when you do finish the research leave, it will take time. So to get back into the swing of teaching, to make sure that your teaching material is fully up to date. The second challenge is be sure to apply for ethical approval in good time. This can be a lengthy process, so it is key that you plan well in advance for this. Third, it's important to manage your time against different projects. My AHRC fellowship ran at the same time as the British Academy project. It can be difficult and stressful trying to juggle different projects. Would I do that again? Probably not. Even though both projects were very enjoyable and I worked with great colleagues on them. That's essentially my time for this podcast, but I'm always happy to have a chat anytime with anyone thinking of applying for funding. I heartily recommend it. Good luck.